You know what I love about custom firmware? When it actually makes your device better instead of just different. And ArkOS on the XF40H is exactly that. It takes an already solid handheld and it turns it into something special. Better performance, more systems supported, and here's the kicker, Portmaster integration. And that means native ports of games running directly on the hardware itself. Now, I know what some of you will be thinking, oh great, another firmware install with 1 million steps and 17 different downloads. But we're going to keep it surprisingly straightforward. We've got one specific build to download, one card slot to worry about, so you don't have to worry about a second slot at all. And before you know it, you will be gaming on that beautiful, big 4-inch 1x1 screen. And whether you're completely new to custom firmware or you've done this dance before, I'm going to walk you through everything step by step. We'll get ArkOS flashed, your games loaded, and have you up and running in no time. The whole point here is to get you gaming as quickly as possible without any unnecessary complications. Now, there is one important thing to remember up front about this device, and that is the one SD card slot I mentioned before. This means everything, your operating system, your games, your BIOS files, they all live on the same card. So we're going to want to think of a bigger card than usual when it comes to buying one. Don't go grabbing that dusty old 8GB card from your drawer. I'm using my standard 64GB card that I do all of my testing with, and honestly, if you've got a decent game collection, you'll probably want to look at 128GB or even 256GB cards. There are a few things that you're going to need before we get started, and you'll find links to everything in the description below. First up is 7-zip. If you haven't got that already, this is just for extracting the firmware file. Next is Rufus, which is what we'll use to flash the image onto your SD card. And of course, you'll want your BIOS and ROMs ready to go. Now, I can't tell you exactly where to get these things from, but a quick Google search for the systems you're interested in should probably point you in the right direction. Make sure that you've got 7-zip and Rufus installed, and I'll see you after this. Right, let's get this show on the road. First thing we need to do is grab the correct ArkOS build. Now, I have got a Google Drive link in the description below. Go and grab that one, and once it's downloaded, you'll have a compressed file that needs extracting. Right-click on it, find 7-zip in the menu and choose Extract Here, and that'll give you the image file that we need for flashing. Now, you get your SD card ready. Remember what I said about size. This is your one and only card for everything, so make sure it's a good one. Pop that into your computer and fire up Rufus, and you should see your SD card in the device drop-down at the top. Double check it's the right one, because we really don't want to accidentally wipe over something that's important. Once you've confirmed it's the correct card, click Select and choose that ArkOS image that you've just extracted. And then you hit Start and let Rufus do its thing. This takes a few minutes, so this is a perfect time to go and grab a cup of tea. And once Rufus is finished, take out the SD card and put it straight in to your XF40H. There's only one slot, so you can't go too wrong. Don't try and plug it into the power socket, whatever you do. Power on the device, and then you just wait. ArkOS is going to boot up, and it's going to run through its initial setup. You'll see text scrolling by and progress bars doing their thing. This is all perfectly normal. The whole process takes 5 to 10 minutes, so be a bit patient and let it do its work. Eventually, you'll be greeted by the emulation station interface on that lovely big screen, and at this point, you shut the device down. You do that by pressing the menu button, and then going to Quit, and selecting Shut Down. We've got some games to load now, so take out the SD card, put it back in your computer, and you should now see that it's been transformed with multiple partitions. Look for the one that says Easy ROMs. Open that up and you'll see a beautiful folder structure waiting for you. There's a BIOS folder for your systems file, and you should have folders for every system that you could want. Drop your BIOS files into the BIOS folder and then sort your ROMs into the appropriate system folders. Game Boy games go in GB, NES games go in NES, and so on and so forth. The folder names are pretty self-explanatory, so you shouldn't have any trouble figuring out which things are which. Now, here's where that bigger SD card really pays off. Since everything lives on that one card, you can load up as many games as your card can handle without worrying about swapping cards or managing multiple storage devices. It's actually quite liberating once you get used to it. And once you've finished copying everything over, you can safely eject the SD card, and then you pop it back into your XF40H, power it on, and then watch as Emulation Station scans through all of your games and populates the menu. Now, you can navigate around the interface and you'll find that it's clean, responsive, and really well suited to that screen size. Everything's easy to read, easy to navigate, and the games look absolutely fantastic when you eventually fire them up. The XF40H was actually a solid piece of hardware, but with ArkOS running, it really comes into its own. Now, there's a few things here that you're going to want to change. First up is enabling Wi-Fi, and we do that by pressing on the Start button, and that's going to bring up your menu, and then right at the top there, you'll see Network Settings. Press A, and you'll be taken to a screen when you can enable Wi-Fi. And that's one of the few devices at this price point to actually have Wi-Fi, so we really should set this up. Pressing A here will turn it on, and I actually pre-populated my SSID here, but you can scroll through until you get to the right one, and then you move down to the Wi-Fi key settings and press A again, enter your Wi-Fi key here, and then press the return key on the right hand side when you're done. And I have to admit, this process did take quite a long time for my Wi-Fi to actually connect, so you have to be a little bit patient and a little bit careful here. Now, there's one problem with using this particular build of ArkOS, and unfortunately, it's the only build of ArkOS that I found that works with this device. What I couldn't seem to do is get the scraper working. So if you wanted to use this just purely because you wanted to scrape box art for your games, then I'm afraid this probably isn't the system for you. And every time I tried getting the scraper working, it just crashed the system completely, and then Emulation Station would just start up again. And if I ever find a fix for this, then I will either leave some details in the description below, or I'll make another video about it. But for now, you can't do it. But what you should be able to do is RetroAchievements and Portmaster, and I'll show you how to do that a little later on. Before that, however, there is something else that you can do in this main menu, and that's to change the LED sections. And in the next option down under Network Settings is indeed LED Settings. So hover over that and press A. Then press A again to choose which LED mode, and you can choose, red, blue, green, some special effects as well. Personally, I actually quite like leaving the LEDs off, but if you prefer them on, then choose whichever one you want by scrolling to it and pressing A, and then backing out onto the main menu using the B button is going to turn your LED settings on. So we've set up the Wi-Fi, we've set up your LEDs. Let's finally get Portmaster running. This is a little bit convoluted, but it's absolutely worth doing. So it's fairly easy to do, even though there's a few steps. You're going to head to your main RetroArch menu, and you want to find the item that says Options. And clicking on this brings up another menu where you want to go to the Tools folder, and then Portmaster should be the only thing there, or one of the two things there. So move over to Portmaster, press your A button to open it up, and now the thing to remember here is that Portmaster is pretty much ready to go as long as you're connected to the internet. But there is a quirk, so once you hit that A button, some code will flash onto the screen, and you'll be taken to the starting screen. And the first time you boot this up, or if there's any updates, it might take a while to get things going because you're basically installing files, but eventually it's going to give you a disclaimer. And you're going to need to wait for 15 seconds before you accept. Now, it will tell you at this point to press the A button to continue or the B button to quit. But it looks like Portmaster buttons here are the wrong way round. So at this point, you press the B button to continue, and then you'll get into the main Portmaster menu. Now, I'm not going to go into how to install every single game with this, especially the ones with extra files. You can look that up by yourself if you want to do it. But Portmaster does come with some games that you can install that don't require any extra files to play. Let's grab one of those. So we move down on the D-pad until we get to Ready to Run Ports and press B. And remember, our keys are still the wrong way round, so if you see something in the bottom right hand side, it's the opposite key. Find the game you want to play, and I'm just going to choose this one for demonstration, and then pressing B will show the info, and pressing B again will install it. Now, if you have an installed game that needs extra files, the info screen is actually going to tell you where those files need to go. For example, Shovel Knight requires you to have a copy of the game that's copied onto the ports, Shovel Knight, game data folder before it will run. And that's basically all you've got to do. But like I said, I'm not going to go through the full setup here. So when you've installed your game, back out onto your main menu and choose Exit, and then you can back out onto the main ArkOS menu and navigate to ports. But wait. Right now, you won't see your new game installed, and that's because Emulation Station needs to reload its game list. And I thought there was a way to do this in the menu, but I couldn't find that. So the quickest way to do that is just restart your system, and the game should appear in your ports menu, ready to play. Now, there might be a couple of settings that you want to tweak in RetroArch, but all of this is completely up to you. So if you're happy with just the basic build, then you're good to go. And honestly, ArkOS comes pretty well configured out of the box, so you might not need to change anything at all. But if you would like to change a couple of things, this is what I like to do when I first boot up an operating system. The first thing we do is go to the main menu, and then we find the link that says RetroArch and press A. You'll see that you've got two different options here. There's RetroArch and RetroArch 32, and these are two different versions of the same thing. And each different version runs different emulators. So depending on the game system you choose, ArkOS will choose the right version of RetroArch to run. That does mean that if you want to make any changes in the RetroArch system, you've actually got to do it on both of those places. So let's choose the top one for now, and we'll be into the RetroArch menu. Now, the first thing that I would suggest doing is a little bit of a quality of life thing. What we're going to do is change a few hotkeys. So first, you move down to Settings, and then we go into Input, and then again press your A button. And then we're going to go down to where it says Hotkeys and press your A button. And in this menu, we can change which keys are bound to which button. So the first thing that we're going to do is change the Hotkey Enable button. And in order to do that, you press the A, and then you hold down the button that you want to change it to. And I'd suggest changing it to the Select button here, because that seems to be the best fit. So press A, and when the little box comes up, hold down that Select button until the box goes away, and then you're all set. And the next thing that we're going to do is change the fast forward and rewind keys. Now, the thing to remember here, and I've made this mistake before, and I always say this when I talk about ArkOS to anybody, is that you don't need to hold down the menu button that we've just set when you're setting these keys. When you actually set them off, you do. That's what you do. You press the menu button and then one of these keys. But right now, all you've got to do is you move down to where it says fast forward hold, and I prefer to use hold rather than toggle. You press your A button again, and then we're going to set that to the R2 button. So press and hold the R2 button until that box disappears, and that's your confirmation that it's all done. And finally, we're going to move down to rewind and do the same thing. So press your A button and hold down L2 this time until you get the confirmation of that box disappearing. And once you've done there, back out to the input menu by pressing the B key. And we're going to keep going all the way to the bottom of that menu where it says confirm quit. And we're going to make sure that that is turned off. And what that means is that instead of having to press the select button and the start button twice before you exit out of a game, you only have to press it once. It's a really useful quality of life thing that just makes my life a whole lot easier. So I'd suggest doing that on both of these systems for yourself. Okay, so once we've set your Wi-Fi up, we're also going to want to set up your achievements. So at this point, we're going to back out of the input menu by pressing B, and we're still in the settings. We're going to scroll down until you get to achievements. And then we press the A button to go into achievements and the A button again to turn it on. And now you're going to want to go down to hardcore mode and make sure that that's turned off. I think it's turned off by default because otherwise there's some settings around saving games and things that you won't be able to use properly. Then you choose your username. So hover over username, press A, put your username in there, then go down to password and press A, and then you put your password in there, and then you back out, and then you're done. And you should now have RetroAchievements running when you play your games. Okay, so once we've done all of that, we're going to need to save this configuration. So press the B button to back out into the main settings, And then we're going to go to the left and up to where it says ArkOS. Then we go to the right on the D-pad, and from there you can go down on the D-pad to where it says configuration file. We press the A button to get into this. And then we're going to move down to where it says save current configuration and press the A button again. And that saves the current configuration for this particular system. Pressing B now will get us back out onto that main RetroArch page, and then we move down to where it says quit, and then pressing A once more is going to get you back out onto the main ArkOS user interface. And that's it, you're all done. Now you'll need to repeat these steps for RetroArch 32, and then all of those quality of life settings will be done as well, and that's it. Your XF40H is now running ArkOS and ready to deliver some serious gaming on that fantastic 4-inch display. The single card setup might seem like a limiting factor at first, but with a decent size SD card, you'll have more games at your fingertips than you could play in a lifetime. And if this has helped you out, then please do give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments how you get on with your newly modded XF40H. Now stop watching and start gaming. I'll see you in another video.